So the object here is to win.
No dough, no show.
Sounds to me like you guys are a couple of bookies.
Show me the money.
Welcome back to Beyond the Odds. This is Shane, joined as always by Nick and Nick, my boys Arb Father and Arb Thief. How we doing today, boys?
Week 4, man. Ready to roll.
Crazy to think we made it to episode 4, but let's get it.
Yeah, we thought we'd introduce a new concept for this show, and that's called the MEGABAG. So we're going through nothing but your Q&As for the entire episode. Also in the show, we're going to introduce the lightning round, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So I'm going to fire questions at you guys, and guys are going to have about 20 or 30 seconds to answer. How's that sound?
I'm a little nervous, but I'm ready.
Pressure's on, but let's do it.
We'll see how it goes. All right.
I got mail! Yay! I got mail! Yay!
Let's just get started, man. We don't want to get as many questions as we can in the time frame that we have to record. So let's just go ahead and start. First question comes from Iliad, and he asks, what do you recommend for arbitrage betting in states like Florida, California, and Texas?
I can take this one. So there are plenty of books out there that are called social sports books or sweepstakes sports books or sportsbook exchanges that are legal in the states of Florida, Texas, California, and a lot of those states where you don't have your typical domestic sports book. And some of those, just to list them off the bat, we have Fliff, Novig, ProfitX, Rebet, Onyx Odds, Sportsino. I'm probably missing some. But then outside of those, you can also add offshore sports books. You have Bet105, Bookmaker, MyBookie, Bovada, BetOnline. I think I just listed 11 sports books already, so you can definitely arbitrage bet if you're in a state like Florida, Texas, California, where you don't have your typical domestic sports books and still make a ton of money. I see guys on Twitter all the time that are located in these states making over $5,000 per month just from arbitrage betting with those sports books.
Absolutely. And I would say that, yeah, checking out those guys who are already making posts on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, get in touch with us. And if you need help finding them, we will do so. But that's definitely who I lean on in those states, and we'll send inquired parties to those folks because it's important that you talk to the people that are actually betting in those states and making decent returns and seeing how they're doing it.
Yeah, and in some ways, those books set you up even better for arbitrage betting than your typical domestic sports books because a lot of those don't even limit at all. So I love all those social sports books. I still use them daily. So definitely recommend using those books if you're in a state like Florida, Texas, and California, but also any other state. And I would definitely add those books to your arbitrage arsenal.
Yeah, I hear you, AT. That's all great information, man. I appreciate you saying that. All right, next question comes from Rob. When plus EV betting, is it recommended to avoid correlation and not bet on multiple player props for the same team?
I can definitely take this one. It's definitely good to, take as many EV bets as you can, even if it's on the same game. What I will say is you definitely want to have some sort of risk tolerance, right? Like you don't want to be taking 6, 7 players on the same team all to go over, right? Because what's the odds of that, right? So, I mean, if I'm getting a really good deal on maybe 2, 3, 4 players max on that same team, I'll bet it. And then, if I see other stuff pop up, I'll maybe just avoid it for that game. But the main thing I would really say is like correlation and stuff is okay. Definitely have like your risk appetite, but you definitely don't want to take any conflicting bets. That's more of the issue for me when I'm EV betting. It's good to make a mental note of, hey, I locked in Raptors -8.5. Now there's an EV bet on, the Magic at +6.5. I don't want to take this right because now I'm exposing myself to like a reverse middle, right? So you definitely do have to be mindful of what you already locked in and what is popping up on that screen now.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to correlated bets, it's exactly that. It's what's your risk tolerance, right? How much money are you willing to insert into this market, and your expected gain from it. So, I personally limited a little bit. I'm newer to EV, so probably a little bit more risk averse than AF is because he's seen a lot more data than I have. But it's really your appetite, man. I think you can do it, see what the results are for yourself, and go from there.
So there actually is, an instance where I will specifically target correlated EV plays, and this is usually on limited books, say like my MGM or my Fanatics, and usually live and on mainline. So say I have like an 8% EV bet on the Raptors -2.5, right? More times than not, pretty much 99% of the time, that whole line up, minus 3.5, minus 4.5, minus 5.5. These are all going to be plus EV. It might not be 8%, but it might go to 6, 4, whatever. But these books might have me limited to $50 to $100. But I'm going to hit that 2.5. I'm going to hit that minus 3.5. I'm going to hit that minus 4.5. And this is another way to interject, more money onto EV plays on limited books.
Yeah, ladder those plays if you're into it. I mean, yeah, getting more money to the market at plus EV. All right, the next question is from Brent, and he asks a good one. He says, "How do you guys recognize you're experiencing burnout, and what do you guys do to deal with it?"
Yeah, I can take that one. And honestly, it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, I try to set a strict schedule of when I'm going to be arbitrage betting, or if I see it's a really slow day, I might not arbitrage bet at all. Of course, I'll miss out on some money, but I think it's really important to have a great mental mindset going into the next day, which has a slate of 12 NBA games and a full slate of college basketball games. So really, it's different for everyone. But for me, I try to set a strict schedule knowing that I'm not going to arbitrage bet past, say, 11 o'clock at night. I'll stop there. And if I keep going past that point, I know I'm not in the greatest mental state. I'm tired. Chances are I'm going to make a mistake, which will not be good for my burnout. So just knowing your limits, setting a strict schedule for yourself, and it's okay to take a couple days off if you need, right? You want to be in a really good headspace before you go into the next day of arbitrage.
Yeah, we talk about work-life balance in the sense of arbitrage betting, and we talked about it a lot in episode one actually. But it's the same thing here. Is once you've experienced burnout, you can definitely see it coming a little bit more, and it's important to inject things into your life that keep you balanced. So personally, I play hockey, right? So those hockey nights, I just know I'm going to miss out on money. But I've come to accept that, knowing that it's important that I do those things so I don't experience burnout, right? So I don't get to the point where I feel like I don't want to do this because it's just too much.
I think it's important to set like that that line in the sand early, right? Because my whole first year or so doing, arbitrage, EV betting, like I had the worst FOMO. I literally couldn't be away from the screen, no lie, for a couple hours, even an hour. And, I'm itching to check my phone, itching to log onto the app to see what value and stuff's out there. But, as time went on, I've definitely been a little bit better about kind of trying to draw that line in the sand. And I think for anybody new out there, like AT said, having a stricter schedule, like, hey, I'm only going to get on tonight for, X time to X time. And, before that, I'm going to spend time with the family, or after that, I'm whatever, gonna go to the gym or get a good night rest.
Yeah, the FOMO is real. If I'm away from my phone and I see a 15% ARB popped up while I was away, I am pissed. But like you said, have a strict schedule and it'll keep you in a better headspace.
Yeah, when you've done this for as long as some of us have, you've been through these like FOMO experiences, right? So you deal with them, and you learned how to just keep going about your daily business. We're making enough profit to not cry over, a couple bets that we missed. Next question comes from Bodie, and he's got a good one. Does betting late at night affect your sleep cycle? How do you calm down from the dopamine rush around 10 p.m. to get to bed at a decent time? He's telling us he has a toddler, so waking up early is absolutely mandatory. And I think we can all understand that question.
No, definitely. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm just used to it by now. I used to work overnights, and dude, I used to constantly be drinking, 2, 3 Red Bulls or energy drinks on a shift like that, and would run off barely any sleep. So for me, it's a little bit more natural, but I totally understand, having a toddler and a family at home, it's tough to balance. But definitely don't drink any energy drinks or any coffee or soda and stuff like that. That's only going to hurt your case there at nighttime trying to settle down.
And this kind of goes back to our last question as well. Like, set a hard cutoff time at the end of the night where you're not going to be in a good mental headspace at that time. Stop yourself at 10 or 11. Even if you miss out on some ARBs during that time, they're going to be there the next day. So it's okay to miss some game time late at night. It could get you in trouble.
It's hard to do. We can all talk from personal experience, man. I spend a lot of nights around 11 or 12 just fading, but going through the motions and getting in whatever bets that I can because of the FOMO action, right? And it is affecting my sleep. I can't sit here and lie that it's not. I go to bed at 12 o'clock or 1 in the morning and get up again at 6 o'clock, and that's just how my schedule has been while I'm on this trip. But building a better schedule is definitely a goal of mine. Like being able to cut those hard times and deal with a little bit less profit over time might just be more healthy. So that's something I got to work on myself. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. It comes from Tim. Tim asked an easy one, but only one of us can answer it well. What's your strategy for DFS sites?
So I'm definitely no DFS master. I'm not an Alex Monahan or some of these other guys on Twitter. But it's pretty similar to EV. Really, that's all it is. But it's parlays, right? It's not any straight bets. Is you're gonna have to take at minimum 2 legs, but most of these sites are gonna require you to take 3 to 5 legs in order to be profitable and beat them long term. But yeah, they have a fantasy optimizer on OddsJam, and again, it's the same exact thing. You can click onto these bets. OddsJam kind of highlights them, like the bets up top in the green are more profitable. The bets in the middle, where they're like highlighted yellow, are they're a little bit smaller EV, and then the ones that are in red might be like break even or just slightly negative EV. But they do a good job of breaking this down, and you can click into each bet just like you can on like the EV tool, and you can see, all right, underdog will give me this bet over 3.5 rebounds at -122 odds if I take this in a 3-man whatever power. And FanDuel has us at -150, Bet Online -145, Pinnacle -155. And you can just kind of see, like, all right, I'm getting a great deal to the market or these sharp books. Let me add this play into my slip. And that's all it really is, right? But again, you can't just rely on one pick like you can on some of these domestic books and stuff. You have to take them in parlays. The only downfall for this is, there's a lot more variance in DFS. So there's going to be swings, right? Like I think last month, to be honest, I went down like $4,000. My unit size was like $150. And then I end up finishing the month plus over $1,000. So like it only takes a couple slips for you to get this money back and more. And it can be extremely profitable long run, but you definitely have to set a realistic like unit size. And again, just like any type of betting, EV and stuff, it's volumes key. So start with, $10, $20 slips and just kind of work your way up from there.
So I'll ask you a
Yeah,
question for this one because I'm trying to learn the DFS world as well. I
Okay.
know on the OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer, it shows you like the percentage that that play has of winning, like the percent chance. Is there a
Yes.
certain percentage that you look for? Is it 55%, 58%, 60? What are you looking for?
Nope, literally same thing with EV, right? So that's a good question. So like just like with EV, like I have an odds range of -200 to +200, and then that's like on a single solo pick that's going to be a probability between 33 to 67%. So pretty much the same exact stuff on the DFS. They usually don't have any like crazy high odds either way, anyways. So they kind of always fall in that same range, but for less variance, obviously if you can get plays that FanDuel, Bet Online, Pinnacle, right? If we're talking about like NBA player props, they all have at -180. So they have these wicked highly favored, and I can get them at -122. That's amazing, right? And then there's the flip too. Like sometimes DFS sites are a little bit different in every state. Like they kind of mess with them recently. So it's like not like all the same. So like they're kind of like sports books now, like at least in Massachusetts. So I can get some stuff that's like, +100, +120, like stuff like that as well. But um, hopefully that kind of answered your question. But I'm just kind of trying to do the same exact thing that I'm doing with EV and just trying to keep it into that, that -200 to +200 range.
there's some really great instructional videos out there. You can go to the OddsJam YouTube channel. There's a guy named Dustin there that specifically goes through some really great strategies for this DFS sites. I've watched them myself. I just haven't dabbled. Funny enough, that's one of the books you can use is dabble. But I haven't really, got into DFS so much yet. But something I'll probably dip my toes in here soon enough. All right, our next question comes from Christian, and he asks, "What's the extra benefits of using OddsJam's Platinum plan, and is it worth the extra money?"
So platinum is definitely a game changer. I was doing really well before I got on platinum, but ever since platinum, I really started running and literally never looked back. It's just having more books, right? That's the name of the game is having more outs, and you're going to get access to these offshore sites, right? Like Bovada, Bookmaker, MyBookie, and a lot of these sites have crazy value. There's a lot of offshores like a Bookmaker or Bet 105 that literally will never limit you. So just having access to these books alone are huge. And then the other piece, which is probably even bigger in my opinion, is just live betting. There's a million more opportunities than there is pregame, and a lot of these sites that do limit us pregame really hard, especially on like props and stuff, they actually will allow us to get down, $100, sometimes even more on these main lines live.
Yeah, I think that's the key is understanding the markets with these limited books. I mean, there's 1,000 benefits to live betting. One of them being able to test the markets even on limited books and get in, profitable size bets, things that are worth your time, definitely worth your time. But you got to kind of feel that out and ask people what works and what doesn't. Um, and then second is your ability to cycle your bankroll. I know I've preached that for so long in some personal videos I've made and whatnot on X, but your ability to push your bankroll through the market more than once a day, we're talking like 2 and 3xing your daily profits, right? Because your profits are based on how much money can you push to market in a day and how much time do you have to do so. Um, so you really can't maximize that benefit without live arbitrage. Okay, boys, enough of the slow stuff. Lightning round. All right, first question, AT. How much money do you suggest one should have available to start arbitrage betting?
Great question. So my advice to everyone is always start with at least $1,000 in 3 books minimum. So $3,000 total would get you off to a great start. Not a requirement, but I think that would set you up for success right off the bat.
AF, how are you tracking bets?
This all depends, but OddsJam tracker for ARBs and bonuses, Picket for domestic EV bets, and then any offshore bets like EV bets on offshore books or non-Picket books. Those are just gonna be tracked in my notes and on a spreadsheet.
AT, what's the best way to transfer funds from one book to another?
Sadly, sometimes you have to withdraw. I try to only withdraw if one book is down to 0 or so low that it can't even function anymore, but you'll have to withdraw and replenish your other sports books.
AF, are you using the Kelly criterion for bet sizes or are you just using units?
That's optimal for a new EV better, but unfortunately we get limits, and as your bankroll grows, you're not going to be able to use Kelly C. So yeah, I'm just firing pretty much whatever the books will let me at this point.
AT, what's the best way to use a sportsbook profit boost?
Easy. OddsJam promo converter. You can usually convert it about 25 to 30%. Make some free, easy money.
AF, what's the ratio of your ARBs to EV?
At this point, it's about 50-50, to be honest.
Well, that was lightning. All right, AT, do you prime your accounts? And if so, for how long?
I do not. Honestly, I don't think it helps like it used to. If you want to play some degenerate bets for a week, see if it works. Definitely report back to us and let us know, but I definitely don't think it helps.
Okay, boys, break. We'll have another one of those. You don't know when it's coming, but I figured it'd be fun to insert a lightning round there. All right, our next question comes from Mark, and he asks, how much can one really expect to make with a 5K bankroll and access to all major books? I'll go ahead and start us out here. It's not, I mean, your access to books makes a difference because you're going to need to push this money to market. That's how you're going to get your profit margin. That's how you're going to base your returns on, right? So whether it's 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K, I've had days where I've pushed 25K to market. Like it's your ability to push your bankroll into the market and at what return on investment percentage. So, if for this instance, it's not what would you expect to make. I mean, that's pretty simple. 5K at let's say 3% on average for most beginning users is what,
Yeah,
guys?
you're looking at about $150 a day over 30 days, about $4,500, maybe $5,000. But like Shane said, if you roll over that 5,000 multiple times in one day, let's say it's a large college basketball Saturday, you get that $5,000 down, 3 or 4 times in one day. So you can make 5,000 in a month. You could make more than that depending on how much time you put into it.
Yeah, you have to marry those things up, right? That is exactly what I tell people when they ask me, how much can I earn? Well, and they ask me, some people want to start. I got 10K to start with, man. What do I do? Well, I tell you what, you're not going to be able right off the bat to push 10K in because you just need to experience the market. You got to know how to do it. So, you work your way up to that. Once you find it easy to insert 5, it's not much harder to insert 10. You just have to find the time and the opportunity and ability to do so. So that's how you get your profit margin up. How much money can you put to market in the time you have given to do so?
Yeah, my goal every day is to get my entire bankroll down at least once. And if I get it down more than one time in one day, then it's a really good day. But try to get down as much as possible, especially with unlimited books. Feel free to bet as much as you can.
Great information, man. Well, the next question comes from Sean, and he's got a super interesting one that I don't know how to answer, but I want to try it. So he says, have you guys ever tried closing an account before implementing a new one to see if it throws off the tracking of a particular device or Wi-Fi IP? How interesting is that? I cannot say that I've tried it, but I can tell you that I'm going to.
I've literally never even thought of it, but it's not a bad idea. I wouldn't do this on one of my main accounts like a FanDuel or something, but maybe on like a friggin' Bollies or Fanatics, and why not?
On a P1 account that you don't give two shits about, yeah, just send it, because if it gets clipped or whatever and you don't have access to it for the rest of your time, do you really care, right? So those some of those less profitable P1 accounts. This is where you would test it.
I've actually never gotten that question, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of questions over the last year. So I like the creative thinking. I think for me, I'm maybe a little more risk averse, where I might not even risk that and just get the P2 device for a couple $100 and not risk losing a fresh P2 account that you can't use anymore because you use the same device. But
Great question, though. I got to say, it definitely thought provoking. But let's go to the next one, and it comes from Lauren. And he asks, what are the best sports to bet on live? And also, what are the best sports to bet on pregame?
I'd probably just spin this question and just say, the worst sports to bet pregame are probably going to be college, right? So there's not going to be a lot of value on pregame college basketball or college football. A lot of states don't have player props and stuff on these. They don't offer nearly as many markets as say like the NFL or the NBA do. So these are going to be great books for live arbitrage, but for pregame they're going to be really bad.
Yeah, those markets are typically limited too. When I say limited, you're going to be able to place okay money on, but you're not going to be able to put down $300, $400 on a college prop. Most books aren't going to allow it because it's too niche in the first place. Obviously, the best one that I've ever experienced is NBA. I mean, there's just no doubt about it.
I'm going to be sad when NBA is over, but I mean, I would say NFL probably a close second for pregame as compared to NBA, just because there are so many player props, and you're seeing them throughout the whole week. So I'll definitely miss NBA, and I'll be waiting for NFL to come back.
That goes for live too, as far as my NBA, answer to that. I mean, live arbitrage in NBA is the absolute money winner.
MLB isn't horrible. Live, there's not a crazy amount of opportunities. They kind of pop up and go off pretty quick. But pregame, to be honest, like don't sleep on it. There's 9 guys in a lineup and there's a bunch of pitchers, and they have a bunch of different stats that you can bet on, whether it's hits, runs, RBIs, strikeouts, walks. Definitely a decent slate of opportunities.
I actually have high hopes for MLB this year. So last year at this time when MLB started, we didn't have Novik, we didn't have ProfitX, we didn't have some of these books that we do now. I think it might be a lot better than it was last year. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be, my first season betting on baseball and arbitrage. So I look forward to it. And maybe if it is much better, I'll just be happy I never experienced the dog days. All right, moving on to the next question comes from Marcus, and he asks a good one. How do you prioritize the value of your plus EV bet, and do you just bet on anything with good plus EV?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this previously, but we can definitely touch on it real quick. And I definitely don't take, I have filters, right? We should all have filters, and for pregame that's usually like 4% minimum EV, and live that's usually 6% minimum EV. And then again, I take minus 200 to plus 200 odds range, so no big underdogs, no big favorites. And I also don't just click on anything that pops up on the screen. The first year that I did this with EV betting, that's pretty much all I did. Hey, it's a 5% to Pinnacle, or it's a 5% to the OddsJam algorithm. I'm gonna bet, pretty much whatever it says or whatever I can get down, and I'm gonna roll with it, right? And I was winning. I only had 2 losing months, or I've only had 2 losing months to an EV the last year and a half, but my ROI was pretty low relative to what it is now. But now, yeah, I'm just reading the market more. I'm clicking into every opportunity that there is, reading the market, and just looking for boosted payouts or discounted prices to not only one sharp book, but multiple. Right, I'm seeing where Pinnacle is, where Bet Online is, where Bookmaker is for main lines. I'm seeing for props where FanDuel is, where Pinnacle is, where Bet Online is, and if these are all have the same opinion or close to the same opinion, that I'm firing away. If they have opposite opinions, then I'll probably just lay off that bet.
I have a question for you. It's somewhat related to this. So do you ever adjust your strategy based on the size of the slate that we have that day? So, for example, if it's a really small NBA slate and you see like a 5% EV play, which might be a little bit lower, like would you still take that? Or if it's a really large slate, do you wait for higher percentage EV plays?
No, yeah. So great question. I never really lower my standards, to be honest. Like I'll just go without like the volume that day. But I definitely will raise my standards, right? Like tonight there's gonna be 12 NBA games. I might go from 6% minimum EV to like 8 or 9%, just because I know there's gonna be so many friggin' bets that pop up. Like, let me just get the cream of the crop, right? I'm not gonna waste my time taking a lot of the stuff that I would be wicked happy with, on an average night with, 7, 8 NBA games, but we have 12 tonight. So I'm definitely gonna raise my standards and just go after the higher EV stuff.
That's a nugget right there. That's a good tip. Yep.
And the reason I asked that is because I adjust my strategy for arbitrage. Like if it's a really slow day, I'll take that 1.5% arb and maybe make $10. But if it's a large slate, I'm not wasting my bankroll on a 1 or 2% arb. I'm going to wait for those 3, 4, or 5% arbs. So definitely makes sense to adjust your strategy a little bit for arbitrage depending on the size of the.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in ARBs, any money you get in is good money because it's going to get profit, right? And I think in plus EV, you're trying to just make sure you're still, you set those values of your strategy. If you dip from that, you're kind of, you're going away from the volume plays that you make and why they're profitable to you and things like that. So, yeah, that's a great conversation. The difference between the two. Oh shit! You didn't see it coming, lightning round. Okay, AF, how much of your winnings that you post on Picket and Odds Jam Tracker are from your actual P1 accounts?
I'll be honest, not a ton, right? It's just my P1 FanDuel, my P1 MGM, my P1 Fanatics, and Profit X and Novig. But other than that, everything else is going to be a P2 or P.
Yeah, mine's almost zero. AT, how many bets are you typically laying in a given night?
Short answer, as many as I can, but on average, probably between 20 and 50. Really depends on the size of the slate.
AF, how long do you have to put down a plus EV bet?
If it's live, probably 30 to 60 seconds. If it's pregame, you might have a minute or two.
Right back at some more EV. AF, for pregame EV, are you playing mostly main and alt lines? Or are you mixing in player props as well?
Pregame, mostly player props. Live, pretty much all main lines.
AT, is it bad to repeat ARBs that I've already placed?
I think it actually is. I know DraftKings specifically doesn't like when you place a bet twice, so I would stay away from it.
I would definitely suggest you don't do it. Okay, AF, when betting live ARBs, do you bother putting money down on smaller markets like quarter totals, or do you just hammer them?
If I'm already limited, I'm just going to send the max. If I'm not limited, I'm probably just going to avoid these markets.
Whew. All right, lightning round over. All right, let's go back to the questions, boys. And this one comes from Randy. Randy asks, what books do you use to mainly live bet?
If you have access to them, any one-click books are going to be, the best to use. That's FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, MGM. I think Bet Rivers now, Shane had mentioned last episode. These one-click books are just super easy to load the bets up in your slip or bring you right to the game, and it's going to make your life so much easier. And then if you're talking about like offshores too, Bovada, MyBookie, Bookmaker, some of these accounts have, crazy amount of value live.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the way that you're going to probably use one-click book at least in your arbitrage opportunity. Typically, doesn't mean you always do, and you need to find efficiencies in a way to place a bet, no matter what two books you're using. But once you find one that is successful, right, you're going to come up with efficiencies to have these things queued up. Do you have it in a separate tab, always open and ready to launch? Right, you're not always, using the game button, so to speak. You might know you're going to get some MyBookie action because it's been good to you for the last couple of weeks, and you're building an efficiency on that book in particular. How do I get to this player prop quick in this game? You start to understand the site a little bit more, and those things are a big bonus as in a good efficiency on like how you are successful with some of those books that aren't one clicks. But you can build an efficiency with anyone. I would say that any book in some fashion is good for live if you can find a way to make it work. All right, our next question comes from Howie, and he asks, how long do you realistically think you'll be able to ARB if and when you run out of P2 accounts?
I'm still primarily arbing on my P1 account. So like I said earlier, books like Novig, ProfitX, uh, Rebet, Onyx Odds, my limited FanDuel, my limited MGM, like they've still made it possible for me to arbitrage. But obviously some of them have to be live, but I hope I can do this forever on my P1s. And I think it's possible with the way that the sportsbook landscape is changing. So
No, I totally agree. I do just want to say, like, your P2 network is it can be a wide range of people, right? Like it's everybody you know, family, friends, old friends. You know, just got to get creative. You can fucking look on Facebook, right? Like who's on my friends list? Oh yeah, you know, this guy's a good guy. Let me hit him up, see if he wants to go grab a bite to eat and a beer and just fucking, you know, shoot my shot in there, right? Why not? Like definitely get creative with these P2s. I wouldn't give up on, you know, hey, I only can use my best friend and my sister and that's all I have, right? Like you definitely want to, you know, start branching out to other people, especially if you're making a lot of money, right? And money talks, people are probably going to jump on the opportunity to make some free money as well. But I definitely agree with AT. I think there's so many sweepstakes sites coming out there and exchanges, and you know, there's some domestics that are pretty good even when limited. I think, you know, we'll probably be able to do this for a very long time.
Yeah, that's great information because, you know, through my experiences, I'm going on P3s and fours now. That's where I'm at. Um, and it gets easier to get a hold of these, right? It gets easier to talk to people. It gets easier to explain to them, you know, how this is beneficial for both parties. And then your ability to know how much you can offer them as well comes through experience, right? We get the question all the time is how much do you guys, you know, give to your other sides of your, you know, P2s? It's going to depend on your profit margins and what you're comfortable doing. But if you've done it a few times and you kind of know where this road is going, it's an easier question to answer. So I'll just, you know, simply put, it gets easier once you do this a few times. All right, our last question comes from Donnie, and he asks, "What is your ideal P2 setup?"
I can take that one since I recently started a P2 myself. So it was actually really easy. I went to a Boost Mobile store. I bought an old iPhone for like 250 bucks. The monthly plan was about 50 or 60 bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I did exactly the same thing, and that came off the information that we told each other in the last show. I went to Boost Mobile. I just got a new phone and started up, you know, some P2s with it. But it really comes down to, again, what you're comfortable and efficient with. You know, if you're sold on wanting to use a laptop, then do so. It's the same thing we talk about, just being efficient on whatever platform you have, and then finding a way to implement that. The phone's a little bit easier because it's very mobile. Plus, a lot of the apps you're going to use eventually are mobile anyways. So you're going to kind of need one of those eventually. Two birds with one stone kind of thing. Um, but again, your ideal P2 setup is the same way we say, what is your ideal war room? It's whatever makes you the most profitable and comfortable, you know, edge betting. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed today's show. You know, that was our first Q&A, and we hope you enjoy the lightning rounds. But, you know, that's it for episode 4, guys. What do you think?
That was fun. You know, I'm definitely looking forward to for more sessions like this. So send in those questions, guys. Send in those questions.
Yeah, keep the questions coming. I know we answered questions during this episode, but also feel free to DM us any questions you have as well, and we'll try to discuss them.
Yeah, I know some of you guys that didn't send in questions right now are probably kicking yourself in the ass thinking that they should really talk about this. Well, this is your chance, right, guys? When we ask for this kind of feedback, you send it to us, we're going to hook you up. I promise you that. Well, that's it for today's show. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning into the show. You can reach us on X at BTO_podcast or by email at beyondtheoddscast@gmail.com. New OddsJam users, don't forget, you can use our discount code BeyondTheOdds for 35% off your first month.